in this module, we want to be able to add these CRUD operations so that we can actually add these watch list items. Right now, we were adding them via Postman with the API calls. But ideally, we would want a real network call and wire up our UI so that we can dynamically add these items to watch. So let's go back to the backend code Node.js in our watch list module. You can see where we're getting the items, and you can see where we're mapping the items. You can see we have the crypto coin modules coming in. It's coming in as a DTO. And here we're going to want to provide a flag that the UI is going to use to see if it's watched or not. So we're going to add a flag, a Boolean. We're going to hard code it to false for now, just so we can work with it on the UI. So we're going to go back to our crypto card, and we're going back to this button for the favorites that when we click it, it has a handler, and all the handler does is fire a Windows alert. So that's fine. We need to wire this up further. However, we can use this flag. If it's watched, we can in fact disable the button so that you can't double click on it multiple times. So what we'll do is we'll add a disabled attribute on the button, and we'll map that to the DTO model that's coming in the props. So props.isWatched, I believe. And that's coming from the backend that we hard coded. So let's go back to the UI now. And let's refresh this. Maybe we'll negate it so when it's not watched. So when watched is false, disabled is true. So you can see now all the buttons are disabled. Ideally, what we want to do is have the dashboard. You add the items to the watch list there, and then you go to the watch list and manage those items. So let's see here. So we have our crypto coins here. We can flip this Boolean on the front end, go back to our front end, let the DOM refresh, or we might have to manually refresh this. Go to the dashboard. You can see now that all the buttons are now enabled. What we want to do is we want to add a click handler, which we have. But when we click a button to watch, that's going to fire a service call to the backend. And the backend is going to truly add the item to our list in the database. So that's where we want to go with this. Tools, we can verify by looking at this item. We can change perhaps the color. Maybe we'll change the color to light blue. Maybe the background color. Maybe we can change the color so that we could signal which ones we've added already. I want to make this attribute background dash color. And the good thing about CSS, remember, is we can modify it in memory using the dev tools so that we don't have to constantly be updating the page and refreshing. This will be a hot reload. We can get a preview of what this looks like. You can see it's a lighter color. Maybe that'll signal to us what's added, what's in the watch list, as opposed to just a hard disable. So perhaps back in the code here on the button, we'll add a style that's dynamic. So we'll add background color. Remember, we can't use dashes in React JSX. We have to use camel case. And we're going to put this background color to be defined or determined by that it's watched true false flag. So if it is watched, we're going to set it to maybe what we can do is negate this. If it is watched, blue. If it's not, I think we had that wrong here. So let's just flip the script here a little bit here and go back. And now you can see that the DOM is rendering the light blue buttons. So we have a visual indicator of what is being watched by applying that dynamic style. We could mess around with the border here, tweak different things. Maybe we want to give a border radius, which will give us a little bit of a rounded curve on our button, so it's not so square. We can play with these different things. Again, we're going to probably replace all this with Bootstrap anyhow, but for the most part, if we want to just experiment a little bit with taking the edge off of the button a little bit, we can use the border radius. 5 pixels, and maybe we'll have a border of, maybe we'll have no border if that looks any better, or a border of 1 pixel, solid. Maybe just thin it out a little bit so it's not so solid, so strong. So we might have something that we like here. And if, by experimenting like this in the browser, you can kind of develop a little bit of a visual, and then you can either apply the styles directly here, which is fine. If this gets too long here, too many different style properties, that's where you break it out into a custom style and have a style sheet. So either way, we're doing one style, one approach, which is inline styling. But if it goes over 10 properties, it probably makes sense to have a reusable CSS class. So there you go. Have a little bit of a rounded edge. It's blue. So we have a little bit of a better presentation for our favorite button. So perhaps maybe we just remove that disabled for now, because the disabled just fades it out. So, we could add logic in there to prevent someone double clicking later on. For the most part, we have a visual indicator, which is the light blue if it's being watched. And maybe what we're going to do is make this asynchronous. Maybe this will be the database call, and then we're going to create a DTO or some kind of better. We'll name this get watch items symbols. Take this code here that queries a MongoDB, and we'll snip it out and apply it to this watch list symbol. So a little method that just goes into the database, grabs our symbols, which we could reuse in a couple different places, to be honest, because we probably want to use this method with the crypto coins, because now we have to track which symbols are being watched and apply them and aggregate them into our dashboard. So here's a list of symbols. We want to make sure that we're not breaking our initial watch list logic. So we need to make sure that we're calling that method now. So we're just kind of creating a little tiny helper method with the idea is that we can reuse this now, not just in the watch list module, but now in the dashboard. So this should not break anything. We can verify this. We can go back, refresh this page, make sure we didn't break anything with that code change, go to the watch list itself. So here's the dashboard. So now back in our crypto coin module here, we're going to need to pull that method in, because we would like to know from our dashboard with that visual indicator that we had just created, we want to expose this get watch list symbols, because we don't need all of the items. The items are going to the UI. We just need a very lean list or an array of symbols that are being watched. And we're going to pull them in here. So that's one of the beauty of creating modules, is they have multiple purposes throughout your app. So this little utility is getting the list of symbols, which now we can apply it because we need it when we fetch our coins. So here we have a list of symbols that we can store in memory. So let's see here. We have the raw data and we have our DTO that we're mapping through. So somehow we want to make that isWatch flag dynamic based on, is this particular symbol that's coming from crypto coins isn't in our list of watched items. And if it is in our list of watch items, we need to flip that flag to true, otherwise set it to false. Mongo symbols. So we're going to create a Mongo module, and let's see what this module is going to do here. What we'll do is we'll grab the watch list symbols and put it directly in the Mongoose module here. We can do this side by side. And this makes more sense, actually. We're pulling the models in to this Mongoose model so that, maybe our watch list item will just have utility methods here and not have to deal with the database operations and mapping and manage those things. So we're creating a Mongoose module that has one model, and as it grows, we could build this out a little bit more, but this is dealing with the fetch. And this, we can get rid of the direct references in our watch list utility. So we can just pull in now this Mongoose model. So we'll pull in the method to get watch item symbols from our Mongoose module. That way, this utility doesn't need to deal with fetching the data. So we're abstracting again a little bit farther out, where we're having Mongoose specific modules that deal with dipping to the database. Refresh just to verify that it's working still. We may have broken something. Here was the mistake here. We moved that method to the Mongoose module. So we need to update this require method because it's no longer in here. So we're calling the Mongoose module directly now to get the list of symbols. And we didn't want to create a circular dependency in case our coin module was calling into our watchlist module and vice versa. We could, because we do have the aggregate on the watchlist side. So you can get into a circular reference when files are calling each other. So this is actually a smart way of preventing that by putting our fetch for the symbols into a third module. Then we don't have to have that dependency, crypto coins and the watchlist item, because we aggregate them so closely, and you can get into a very big circular reference error, which is hard to debug, to be honest. So this is actually good. We're isolating the call. This Mongoose model can be used by both crypto coin module and watchlist item, and we don't have them calling each other, because that's where the problems happen. Somebody goes, oh, I need something from there. I need something from this module later on. The devs do that, and we run into weird errors. So anyhow, we separate this out. So we're just getting the list of watchlist items. We're verifying the front end that everything is still loading. Actually, we have an error here on the watch list. Let's see here. That's why our console is so important, because you can see here, it'll give us some errors. Get watchlist symbol is not defined. So did we misspell it? Let's go back. So we had a misspelled function name there, which happens. Okay, so again, refresh in the UI, the dashboard comes in, and then we need to make sure that now in this data transfer object here, we have the list of symbols in memory. We need to somehow have this isWatch flag dynamic based on whether or not that current symbol is being watched. So there's a couple of ways we could do this. We need to aggregate it now. We can iterate over the DTO data and just set that toggle that flag based on if it exists inside of our watch symbol array or list. So we're going to do another iteration. Now, again, you could probably refactor this to 1, but for this example, we're going to create a watch DTO data, and we are going to take the DTO data, map through it all. We're going to create a mapping function here. We're going to map through each coin DTO, and what we're going to check is we're going to check whether or not the coin symbol exists in our watch symbols. So you got to remember, when we're using map, it returns a new object. So we got to make sure we're using the spread operator to quickly spread out all the properties. So we don't want to lose any properties. We just want to overwrite one particular property. So that's where the 3 dots come in, and that's where the spread operator is pretty important. You don't have to sit there and go ID, symbol, name, market cap. You can say 3 dots, basically carry forward everything that we need in that particular coin DTO. And then we can just work on this flag here, is watched. So now we can say coin.symbol, is the coin.symbol, does it exist in our watch list? So, and if it does exist, then we're going to set it to true. And if it does not, it's false. So let's see here what we can do. We can say watch symbols, which is the array. Using ES6 method includes, does the symbols include the current coin symbol? And that method will give back true or false. So ideally, dynamically, this is going to do the work for us. We got to make sure we're returning this watch symbols now, watch DTO data, which has our updated flag. And if we did the UI right and we refresh, this should pick up everything we're watching. So there you go. You can see we have Bitcoin, we have Ethereum, have that light blue, so they must be watched. The other ones are gray now. Look at this. There's some spacing issues, which we'll adjust when we use Bootstrap. But you can see here scanning everything. It's a good indicator. We're not watching very many. We're watching Pepe there, you can see, but we're not watching many coins. But visually, we can see this. So now when we go back to the watch list, here's our items. Here's our 4 coins that we can watch. Again, we got to fix the placement of the buttons. That's fine. We'll do that. But for right now, we have a dynamic watch list.